Stories and Documentary Network. Deep in the heart of Nigeria lies a story that has shaped the identity of the Igbo people, a tale of a kingdom that flourished for centuries, yet remains largely unknown to the wider world. Welcome to the Kingdom of Nri. The Kingdom of Nri, nestled in the southeastern region of present-day Nigeria, stands as one of Africa's oldest and most influential pre-colonial states. Established around the 10th century CE, this remarkable kingdom was not defined by military conquests or territorial domination, as many other African polities were. Instead, it thrived as a theocratic and spiritual entity, characterized by its unique governance, rich culture, and profound religious influence. At its core, the Nri kingdom epitomized the intersection of spirituality and political authority, serving as a unifying force for the Igbo people and a beacon of peace and moral guidance in a tumultuous region. What set Nri apart was its socio-political structure, which revolved around the Eze Nri, a priest-king whose authority was rooted in divine ordination rather than coercive power. The Eze Nri's role as a spiritual and moral leader, coupled with a decentralized governance system, offered a stark contrast to the centralized monarchies and empires prevalent across Africa. This framework allowed the kingdom to wield significant influence over a vast network of communities, fostering a culture of inclusivity, justice, and spiritual purity. The founding narrative of Nri is framed in mythology, with the figure of Eri at its core. According to Igbo oral tradition, Eri is said to have descended from the heavens, sent by Chukwu, the supreme god of the Igbo cosmology, to bring order and civilization to the earth. He arrived in the fertile land that would become the heart of the Nri kingdom, and it is said that his first task was to teach the people how to farm, live in harmony, and worship the gods. This divine mission positioned Eri as a sacred being, a leader with the ability to mediate between the gods and the people. Eri's arrival marked the beginning of a spiritual and political transformation for the region, leading to the establishment of the kingdom. His descendants, particularly his son Nri Ifikwanum, continued his work, institutionalizing the spiritual and governance systems that would define the Nri kingdom for generations. Over time, Nri became a powerful theocratic state, with its rulers believed to hold sacred authority through their descent from Eri. Eri's role extends beyond the foundation of Nri. He represents the ideal of divine kingship and spiritual leadership. As the first leader, Eri established the foundation of the Nri social and political system, with the Eze Nri, king, taking on a role that was both sacred and political. The Eze Nri was not simply a ruler, but a spiritual guide whose authority was derived from his connection to Eri. This divine mandate made the Eze Nri an intermediary between the gods and the people, ensuring that the kingdom's governance was in line with cosmic and moral principles. The Nri kingship was thus unlike typical monarchies. It was not based on military strength or wealth, but on spiritual legitimacy. The Eze Nri had the power to purify the land, conduct rituals for prosperity, and mediate disputes, all while maintaining peace and harmony within the kingdom and with neighboring states. The divine mandate bestowed upon Eri and his descendants gave the Nri monarchy its unique status. The Eze Nri's rule was not enforced by force but by spiritual authority, a concept that distinguished Nri from many other contemporary African kingdoms. The Eze Nri's ability to maintain balance within the kingdom was believed to be a divine gift, and his actions were guided by oracles, spiritual forces that communicated with the gods. This sacred governance structure not only reinforced the legitimacy of the monarchy but also promoted the peaceful coexistence of the kingdom's people, reinforcing a collective responsibility to uphold the divine order. The importance of the divine mandate was evident in the Nri monarchy's succession practices. Unlike many other African states, where leadership was often determined by conquest or political maneuvering, leadership in Nri passed through the line of Eri's descendants. The selection of the Eze Nri was based on spiritual purity and divine approval, emphasizing the idea that the ruler's moral and spiritual character was the key to the kingdom's prosperity. While the divine origins of Nri are central to its mythos, the kingdom's development was also influenced by early settlers who brought agricultural knowledge, social organization, and cultural practices to the region. The fertile lands of Nri attracted agricultural communities that would become the backbone of the kingdom. These early settlers developed an intricate social structure, combining traditional Igbo values with the divine teachings of Nri. As the population grew and villages coalesced, Nri transitioned from a collection of individual settlements into a more organized polity. The Nri people established a system of governance that was deeply embedded in religious practice, with each community under the spiritual and political guidance of the Eze Nri. The Ens Na Oso Society, a council of elders and priests, became an important part of Nri's governance, advising the Eze Nri and ensuring that the kingdom's policies aligned with sacred laws. While much of Nri's origins are rooted in mythology, there is substantial archaeological evidence that supports its ancient foundations. The Igbo Ukwu archaeological site, discovered in the 20th century, provides insight into the advanced society that existed in the region long before colonial contact. Artifacts such as bronze castings, ceremonial objects, and beads have been uncovered, dating as far back as the 9th century CE. These discoveries indicate that the Nri region had a well-established culture and trade network long before the formal establishment of the kingdom. The intricate bronze and copper artifacts found at Igbo Ukwu are particularly significant, as they demonstrate advanced metallurgy skills and the kingdom's role as a cultural and religious center. These artifacts also suggest that Nri had established connections with other African societies, including the Nigerian coastal regions and parts of West Africa. The wealth of material culture discovered at Igbo Ukwu confirms that the Nri kingdom, while founded on divine principles, had a flourishing civilization with a complex political and economic system. The Nri kingdom's core territory was situated in present-day Anambra State, extending its influence across other Igbo-speaking regions. This area is characterized by a tropical climate, with a distinct rainy season and dry season, creating favorable conditions for agriculture. The land is predominantly fertile, with nutrient-rich soil that supported the cultivation of essential crops such as yam, cassava, and cocoyam. These staples were integral not only to the kingdom's economy but also to its cultural and religious practices. The landscape features numerous rivers and streams, including proximity to the Niger River, which served as a natural highway for trade and communication. Additionally, the dense vegetation of the surrounding rainforests provided valuable resources such as timber, medicinal plants, and game, while also holding spiritual significance in Igbo cosmology. The geography of Nri facilitated the establishment of a decentralized settlement pattern, typical of Igbo communities. Villages and family compounds were spread across the region, with each maintaining a degree of autonomy while acknowledging the spiritual authority of the Eze Nri. This arrangement ensured stability and cohesion without the need for a centralized military force. Agriculture was the backbone of life in Nri, with yams holding a special place as a symbol of wealth, masculinity, and prosperity. The annual Iri Ji, New Yam Festival, celebrated the harvest and reinforced the kingdom's connection to the land and its spiritual guardians. The favorable agricultural conditions allowed for surplus production, which was essential for trade and the kingdom's socio-economic stability. At the heart of Nri's political structure stood the Eze Nri, the priest-king who wielded sacred authority. The Eze Nri's position was not based on hereditary military strength or conquest, but on divine mandate, as he was believed to be the descendant of Nri, the semi-divine founder of Nri. His role as both a political ruler and spiritual leader set him apart from typical kings and made his governance deeply intertwined with religious practices. The Eze Nri's authority was centered on maintaining cosmic order and ensuring that the kingdom's spiritual and social life was aligned with the will of the gods. He performed rituals, conducted sacrifices, and administered spiritual justice, with his decisions seen as being divinely guided. This connection to the divine was crucial in maintaining peace, prosperity, and stability within the kingdom. The title of Eze Nri, unlike typical monarchies, was not gained through war or wealth but through spiritual and moral purity. While the Eze Nri held supreme spiritual authority, his power was decentralized in practice. The kingdom operated on a system of checks and balances, with a balance of power shared between the Eze Nri and the village elders, known as the Ens Na Oso. These elders were highly respected figures within their communities, often possessing deep knowledge of the sacred laws, traditions, and customs of the Igbo people. The Eze Nri also played a critical role in governance by advising the Eze Nri on important matters, such as disputes, agriculture, and cultural rights. They ensured that the king's actions aligned with the values and traditions of the people, thus preventing the consolidation of power into a singular authoritarian rule. This decentralized system meant that while the Eze Nri had ultimate spiritual authority, the practical governance of Nri was a shared responsibility between him and the elders. Additionally, the villages in Nri retained a degree of autonomy, with their local leaders holding power over day-to-day affairs. This allowed Nri to maintain a high level of social cohesion without the need for a militarized state or centralized bureaucracy. It was a system that relied heavily on mutual respect, communal responsibility, and spiritual law, rather than force or coercion. At the core of Nri's religious institutions were the priests, who served as intermediaries between the people and the gods. These priests played a crucial role in the rituals and ceremonies that validated the Eze Nri's authority, such as the Igbo Nri, the ritual of purification and ascension. The involvement of the priesthood ensured that the leadership of Nri was always seen as divinely sanctioned, upholding both the kingdom's governance and spiritual integrity. One of the most important religious symbols tied to the Eze Nri's authority was the Ofo staff, a sacred emblem that represented the ruler's divine mandate. The Ofo staff symbolized truth, justice, and moral rectitude. It was an object of immense spiritual significance, used in various rituals, particularly during legal proceedings and religious ceremonies. Holding the Ofo staff was a tangible sign of the Eze Nri's connection to divine power, emphasizing his role as both a protector of the people and an enforcer of the sacred laws. Rituals and ceremonies were integral to Nri's political system, as they affirmed the sacredness of the Eze Nri's rule. The Ofo staff, which the Eze Nri carried during official duties, was not only a symbol of authority but also a sacred tool used to invoke and channel the divine will. The Ofo staff was a key element in the kingdom's judicial system, particularly when the Eze Nri settled disputes or made important decrees. This staff, along with the Eze Nri's spiritual rituals, gave his decisions a sanctified nature, reinforcing the belief that his actions were divinely inspired. One of the most important rituals was the New Yam Festival or Nri, which celebrated the harvest and reinforced the Eze Nri's role as the protector and provider of the kingdom. During this festival, the Eze Nri offered the first yam of the harvest to the gods, ensuring the blessings of fertility and prosperity for the land and its people. The Eze Nri's participation in such rituals demonstrated his deep connection to the spiritual well-being of the kingdom, solidifying his status as both a political and religious figure. At the core of Nri's religious beliefs was the concept of Chukwu, the supreme god. Chukwu was regarded as the creator of the universe, the source of all life, and the ultimate force that governed both the physical and spiritual worlds. Chukwu was beyond human comprehension and represented the ultimate power that governed the universe's order and balance. The belief in Chukwu was a central tenet of the Nri people's spirituality, and every aspect of their daily lives was understood as being under Chukwu's watchful guidance. Allah, the earth goddess, was also revered as one of the most powerful deities in Nri and Igbo spirituality. As the goddess of fertility, morality, and the earth itself, Allah was responsible for ensuring the prosperity of the people, ensuring that crops flourished and that society remained just. She was seen as a provider, nurturing the land and people, and was often invoked in rituals related to agriculture, particularly during the Nri, New Yam Festival, a time when offerings were made to her to ensure a bountiful harvest. Allah was also the protector of morality and was believed to punish those who acted unjustly or violated sacred laws. In many ways, Allah personified the earth's fertility and the moral compass of society. Together, Chukwu and Allah represented the two principal forces in the Nri spiritual system, with Chukwu as the overarching, all-powerful deity and Allah as the earthly force that directly influenced the lives of the people. The worship of these deities was fundamental. In the Kingdom of Nri, priests and diviners held significant roles within society, serving as intermediaries between the human world and the divine. The priests were highly revered figures who performed sacred rituals to maintain the harmony between humans and the gods. These rituals included sacrifices, prayers, and other ceremonies aimed at appeasing the gods and ensuring their favor. The diviners, or dibyas, were also critical figures in Nri spirituality. They were responsible for interpreting the will of the gods, often through divination practices such as the casting of cowrie shells or the examination of animal entrails. Diviners were called upon during moments of crisis, such as plagues, famines, or conflicts, to seek guidance from the divine and ensure that the kingdom remained in balance. The wisdom of the diviners was highly valued, and their predictions were often seen as sacred truths that shaped decisions made by the Eze Nri and other leaders of the kingdom. Sacred rituals played a central role in the religious life of the Nri people. These rituals ranged from ceremonies for purification and reconciliation to those that marked significant events in the life of the kingdom, such as royal ascensions or harvests. The Eze Nri, as the high priest, was deeply involved in these rituals, performing them on behalf of the people to ensure the favor of the gods. The rituals also reinforced the sacred authority of the Eze Nri, as he was seen as the divine representative on earth. The concept of purification and reconciliation was vital in Nri's religious practice. Cleansing rituals were performed to rid individuals or the community of spiritual impurities. These impurities could arise from committing immoral acts or breaking sacred taboos. The cleansing process would typically involve ritual washing, sacrifices, and prayers to restore harmony and balance. Reconciliation rituals were also important, especially during times of conflict or when an offense had been committed against the gods or community. These rituals were aimed at restoring peace and re-establishing the spiritual equilibrium. The Eze Nri, as the spiritual leader, often oversaw these ceremonies, which could involve offering sacrifices, prayers, or making vows to appease the offended deities. One of the most important spiritual concepts in Nri was Nso Ani, or taboo, which referred to actions or places deemed sacred or forbidden due to their association with the divine. The concept of Nso Ani was central to the moral and spiritual fabric of Nri society. Nso Ani served as a means of enforcing social norms and sacred laws, ensuring that the people adhered to the will of the gods. Violating Nso Ani was believed to bring misfortune and divine retribution, and strict penalties were imposed on those who transgressed. This system of taboos helped maintain societal order and spiritual harmony within the kingdom. The Iri Ji, New Yam Festival, was the most significant festival in the Kingdom of Nri, marking the start of the harvest season and the sacred bond between the people and the earth. The festival was dedicated to Allah, the earth goddess, and was a time of thanksgiving for the bounty of the land. During this festival, the first yams of the season were harvested and presented to the gods as a sign of gratitude and to ensure continued fertility for the land. The Eze Nri played a crucial role in the festival, performing rituals to bless the harvest and ask for the gods' continued favor. The festival also featured elaborate dances, feasts, and celebrations, with communities coming together to give thanks and strengthen social bonds. This event was not only a time of spiritual renewal but also a communal event that reinforced the cultural identity of the Nri people. Other festivals were held to honor the gods, mark significant events, and ensure the prosperity of the kingdom. These festivals were integral to the social and spiritual life of the Nri people, helping to maintain the balance between the divine and the earthly. Through these celebrations, the Nri kingdom demonstrated its commitment to preserving the spiritual harmony that was essential for its survival and prosperity. One of the defining features of the Kingdom of Nri was its egalitarian social structure, where power and resources were not concentrated in the hands of a few elites but distributed more evenly across the population. This system promoted social cohesion and a collective identity that was fundamental to Nri's longevity. There was a strong emphasis on communal living, and the people of Nri believed in the collective responsibility for the welfare of all members of society. Within this framework, the village communities played a central role. While the Eze Nri, as the spiritual and political leader, held supreme authority, the kingdom was governed in a decentralized manner, with elders and village leaders exercising significant influence. The village elders, often chosen for their wisdom, age, and spiritual standing, acted as advisors to the Eze Nri and helped mediate disputes and oversee various social functions. The Council of Elders ensured that decisions were made through consensus and collective input, reflecting the egalitarian values of Nri society. The concept of age grades, groups of people of similar age, was also integral to the social structure of the kingdom. These age grades served not only as social units but also as organizational tools for various communal activities. Members of an age grade worked together on tasks such as farming, building, and maintaining the community, and they were responsible for upholding the moral and spiritual well-being of the society. The system of age grades ensured that all members of society contributed to the community's welfare and that no one was left behind in the collective progress of the kingdom. The economic life of the Kingdom of Nri was shaped by the kingdom's agrarian roots, its involvement in regional trade, and its artisanal production of high-quality goods. The kingdom's economy was diverse, encompassing agricultural production, trade, and crafts, each of which played a crucial role in sustaining Nri's prosperity. Farming was the backbone of Nri's economy, with the fertile lands of the kingdom allowing for the cultivation of various crops. Yam cultivation, in particular, was a vital agricultural activity, as yams were considered both a staple food and a sacred crop. The Nri New Yam Festival, dedicated to the goddess Allah, was one of the most important agricultural events, marking the start of the harvest season and celebrating the abundance of the land. Yam production was not just an economic activity but also a symbol of social status and spiritual well-being in Nri society. Large, healthy yams were considered a sign of prosperity, and successful yam harvests were integral to the kingdom's overall economic health. In addition to yams, Nri farmers cultivated crops such as cassava, taro, and cocoyam. They also engaged in animal husbandry, raising livestock like goats, sheep, and poultry. The fertile environment around the kingdom provided ample resources for these activities, making Nri an agriculturally self-sufficient kingdom. Trade played a central role in the Kingdom of Nri's economy, both within the kingdom and with neighboring regions. Nri's strategic location in southeastern Nigeria allowed it to connect with other Igbo-speaking communities as well as more distant regions. The kingdom participated actively in the regional trade networks, exchanging goods such as kola nuts, ivory, and salt. Kola nuts, highly valued for their use in rituals, hospitality, and trade, were one of Nri's most important exports. The kingdom's control over the kola nut trade facilitated its interactions with other Igbo communities and with traders from external regions. Ivory, another prized commodity, was used for crafting luxury items and traded extensively across the region. These items, along with the kingdom's agricultural products, helped to bolster Nri's position as a key economic player in the broader Igbo-speaking world. The slave trade was another aspect of Nri's commerce, with slaves being captured during intercommunal conflicts or through external trade routes. Slaves were used for agricultural labor and could also be sold to external traders. However, it is important to note that slavery in Nri was not based on racial distinctions but rather on social status and captured war prisoners. Nri's trade was not limited to the immediate surrounding areas but also extended to more distant regions, including the trans-Saharan trade routes. The kingdom's access to the Niger River, which connected it to other parts of West Africa, allowed Nri to engage in cross-border trade. Traders from the north brought goods such as gold, salt, and textiles, while Nri's own exports, including ivory and agricultural products, made their way across the Sahara and beyond. Artisanal production was a key economic activity in the Kingdom of Nri, particularly in the field of bronze work. Nri was renowned for its Igbo ukwu bronzes, intricate and highly skilled metalwork that demonstrated the kingdom's sophisticated craftsmanship. These bronzes were not only objects of artistic beauty but also held sacred significance, often used in rituals or as royal regalia. The bronze works of Igbo ukwu were typically crafted for religious purposes, such as the creation of ritual vessels, statues, and ceremonial objects. The craftsmanship of Nri artisans reflected a deep understanding of metallurgy and artistic expression. These works, particularly the bronze heads and ritual items, have been discovered in archaeological digs and are some of the most important relics of NRI's cultural and artistic heritage. These objects were highly prized both locally and in regional trade, reinforcing NRI's reputation as a center of artistic excellence. Beyond metalworking, Nri also had skilled artisans who produced pottery, textiles, and wood carvings, each contributing to the kingdom's economy and cultural identity. These products were used in everyday life, religious ceremonies, and as trade goods. The arrival of British colonial forces in the late 19th century marked a turning point in the history of the Kingdom of Nri. Like many other African polities, Nri faced significant pressure from European colonial powers, particularly the British, who sought to assert control over the region. The British were motivated by a desire to expand their territorial holdings in Africa and secure resources, and they viewed the Nri kingdom's spiritual and political autonomy as a significant obstacle to their colonial ambitions. In 1901, the British conducted the Nri expedition to assert control over the kingdom and to undermine its traditional governance structure. Although the Nri leadership did not resist through direct military confrontation, the British undermined the kingdom's authority by imposing Western systems of governance and administration. British colonial authorities replaced traditional Igbo leadership structures with colonial rulers and taxation systems, drastically altering the balance of power within the region. As part of the broader process of colonial domination, the Eze Nri was reduced to a largely ceremonial role, and the kingdom's political autonomy was effectively dissolved. The British imposed Western systems of law, economics, and education, disrupting the established political and social order that had sustained Nri for centuries. NRI's spiritual leadership, which had once been the cornerstone of its influence, became less relevant as colonial systems sought to replace indigenous institutions with European models. By the early 20th century, NRI's political authority had been severely weakened by both internal decentralization and the imposition of British colonial rule. However, the kingdom's cultural and spiritual legacy continued to influence the Igbo people and the wider region. Although the Eze Nri no longer held political power, the kingdom remained a symbol of Igbo identity and spiritual authority. As NRI's political power waned, the kingdom began to be viewed more as a cultural and spiritual institution rather than a political entity. The traditional rituals, festivals, and symbols associated with Nri remained central to Igbo culture, and the Eze Nri continued to be regarded as a spiritual leader. The kingdom's decline did not erase its influence. Instead, it marked a transformation from a centralized political entity into a cultural symbol that represented the enduring strength of Igbo traditions. In the face of colonialism and the erosion of traditional power structures, NRI's legacy persisted through its cultural and spiritual contributions to the Igbo people. Even as the colonial state sought to replace indigenous systems of governance, NRI's role in shaping Igbo identity continued to be felt throughout the 20th century and beyond. The arrival of European colonizers in the 19th century marked a turning point for the Nri kingdom. Colonial policies disrupted their traditional way of life, leading to significant changes in social structures and economic practices. Today, the Kingdom of Nri may be a shadow of its former self, but its legacy lives on through the resilience of its descendants. Understanding the rich history of Nri is crucial in appreciating the diverse tapestry of African civilizations. Let us celebrate and honor the Kingdom of Nri, a symbol of cultural pride and historical significance.